Hi, everybody. I'm Christine Maines, Christine Kruchek Maines. We're excited to be here today. Not sure why that's automatically advancing. Um, Hang on just a second. Thanks for everything. I'm here with Luke Philly. Luke, why don't you introduce yourself?
I'm Luke. I'm with the tech support side. So when you guys call or email, that's where you're gonna begin. I worked as a data manager for many years. I did everything within there. So if you need anything, we can hopefully help you guys out.
Great. Thank you, Luke. We are excited to be here today. Today, we're going to focus on some introductions briefly and then a brief overview of CASAS. We're here today to really talk about a brief overview of that test design, but only in the context of how you can get information about your students and help them find success. And we'll be looking at some tools and resources that CASAS has available to you to do that. We will have some demonstrations of e-tests and TOPS Pro Enterprise, as well as the teacher portal, which we're super excited about. We'll also be looking at some test results and TE or TOPS Pro Enterprise reports. Now, if you're new to CASAS, let me define that the competencies that we're talking about here are those CASAS competencies. Those are those life and work skills, those functional life and work skills. And the standards are the ELP standards for the English language proficiency standards. That's for our ELL students or our English language learners. And the other standards that we might consider would be for those ABE students or those adult basic ed students, those maybe preparing for a GED or HiSET and high school equivalency programs. Those would be the college and career readiness standards, out of which the English language proficiency standards grew. And then there are some task types, and I particularly like that because all of our tests include all three of those things. And that helps me know what display or format the test items are presented into the students so I know how to teach to a strength of a student. So that's what we're going to focus on today, and we'll share some training and resources at the end of the training, as well as in between each of the sections. So just a couple of housekeeping things. If at any time in between you have a question, Luke is monitoring the chat. And if I'm talking, he will interrupt me. It's the only time I'm giving him permission to interrupt me. No, I'm just kidding. And vice versa, if Luke is talking, he's given me permission to say, hey, Luke, there's a great question in the chat. And we will answer those at the end of when we are actually presenting the content, because sometimes we find the question you ask is a question like, you're so smart, you're anticipating what the next thing is. So Luke will be, and I will be monitoring the chat for each other. But of course, Alex and Danielle are here. So thank you for supporting this training today. They're here today. And if they see something in the chat that's important, of course, they will let us know as well. Thanks so much. If you have something you want to say, we'll have a little bit of time at the end. You want to ask some questions live, we will try to leave a little bit of time. We're going to move forward, though, to our purpose here today. And our purpose and our objectives are for us to look at what's measured briefly, just as a reminder for everybody, look at a brief demonstration of what that looks like on e-tests when we're testing students, and then, of course, demonstrate the various tools and resources that we have for you as teachers to be able to access the results of students' tests so that you can pull those reports quickly and easily. And we'll show you how that you can do that in Teacher Portal. So let's go ahead and move forward. Just as a brief introduction, I know we're feeling like there's a lot coming down the pike. I kind of feel like we're in the Wild West a little bit here some days. So, what iconic Western movie represents your relationship with assessments? Just want to get a pulse from everybody. So, what iconic Western movie represents your relationship with assessment? Some of us are new and some of us are veterans. Are you on the path like Lonesome Dove? You don't have to have watched these movies to know that this is a Western about just following that trail. Somebody's a trail boss. They're telling you what to do and where to go. And it's challenging. You can't see the horizon yet, but you're on the path. Whoops. Are you mounting up? Are you new to assessment? Are you eager to get started with understanding the CASAS tools and resources, getting comfortable in your saddle? Luke Perry. Ooh, that's a throwback. Or Galloping Ahead, Secretariat, which is a very old movie, a Disney movie with Diane Lane and John Malkovich. It was a film about mastering riding, mastering, in this case, using the analogy, being in control at all times with confidence. And you're feeling like you're steady and in control of your assessment situation. You're fine tuning, but you're really enjoying that as well, learning about your students from the assessments. So post in the chat, Lone Star, you're just following the rules, just the facts, just the rules, following, but you're not really sure where you're headed on the horizon. 8 seconds, you're new and you're learning to saddle up. Or Secretariat with assessments, I'm experienced, in control, know what I'm doing, just fine tuning and tweaking. So you can post that in the chat. Which one do you feel like you're at right now? Lone Star, 8 seconds, or Secretariat? So we can get a pulse. Somewhere between Lone Star and 8 seconds. Great. Saddling up, but also just knowing that there's a path and you can follow that path. Anybody else? Luke, how are you feeling about assessments today? Chris, Secretariat, great. Oh, the good, bad, and the ugly. We got you, Chris. It's a mixed bag, isn't it? But ultimately, we're here to find the good so we can help our students. Anybody else? Rio Bravo, Luke. Nice. That is not one of the options. I'm not surprised. Anybody else have any thoughts about what you're feeling about assessment? Doesn't have to be in this context, but just depends on the day, the test, and which program you're talking to, Danielle. Exactly. Oh, nice. Very nice. Well, Chris, you and Luke can get together later and have a chat. All right. We're excited to be here. We're grateful that you took time to come. There's four, it looks like four folks here. Am I right, Danielle? Please feel free to show your video if you're able, because we would love to see you in the process. As a brief overview, the thing that's beautiful about the CASAS journey and assessment for our students is that they are on that trail, but by the time they cross over that bridge from ESL to ABE, they're feeling like Secretariat. They're feeling like they're in control. They know what's to expect. And that's the beauty of our seamless system. It takes them from the low beginning with the STEPS series to the advanced and intermediate advanced and advanced area for adult basic education. So it's a nice crossover. There don't need those stepping stones in between because we've got a nice bridge between both test series and types of learners. I'm going to skip ahead on this, but it is important to note if you're a paper tester, our e-tests have no expiration and the online test units are easy to use. And the programs that we're going to show you today and those reports are much easier to access and more efficient if you're delivering tests through e-tests. We do have complimentary tests, tech support, of which, as Luke mentioned, he's part of that team. As a reminder, we do offer assessments in both e-tests and paper tests. And it's important to note that the modalities that we're going to be looking at reports today will be reading, math, and listening, which are NRS approved, right? But we also have a writing assessment that with e-tests is available complimentary. So that's a really nice benefit as well, getting a sense of what our students can do when it comes to writing to a prompt. What's approved? Steps, reading, and listening. So the reports we're going to look at today are going to show you test results in reading and listening. We're going to look at a student, Wilhelm, and Wilhelm is using the STEPS test because he's an English language learner. And also reading goals and math goals 2. It's important to note we're getting lots of calls. Math goals 2 is approved and has been approved through 2030. Reading goals has been approved through June 30, and we're just waiting to hear on goals 2. We have word as of Monday from our contacts at the NRS that the goals 2 reading series, reading goals 2, has been checked off the list as approved, and we're just waiting for the ship to turn around a little bit to get that uploaded to the Federal Register. So again, we know that it's gone through the steps that it needs to go through. There's no more review. It's just a matter of waiting for those, what's that red tape called, right? For the red tape to be checked off. So we're super excited about that we just heard that on Monday as well. It's important to know what's in each test item. So just as I mentioned earlier, we're going to be looking at reports that have standards, CASAS competencies, and task item types. And the standards that we're talking about are standards that help our folks, whether they are an English language learner or an adult basic ed learner, find functional skills that are academic foundations that will challenge them in a way that they will be prepared to deconstruct text in a work setting, that they will be able to read schedules, that they'll be able to read emails and understand what the procedure is for something, all in mind to have someone read and do mathematics to do something with it, right? We don't use those skills standards in isolation. So that's the beauty of our test design. So how are the test reports managed? We're here today to talk about using student data and the tools that CASAS has to do that. We have TOPS Pro Enterprise, which is the data accountability software where you can generate reports. If you're using e-tests, you can rest assured the minute a student is done with their e-test session and the proctor closes that testing session, which Luke is now going to demonstrate in just a moment, that data and those test results are automatically available. So this has what we call a reciprocal database. So they share their database, and TOPS Pro is where the test results and student data is showing up immediately. Now, eTest does also have some data that you can access as an eTest coordinator. It's less limited. It's more viewing than it is actually managing data. The online testing is going to automatically score, save you time, and the test results are immediately available just as review. And if you want to learn more about getting started with eTests, you can email our Go Live team. Paper tests. So if you are a paper tester, you can absolutely get the same data and information in our TOPS Pro Enterprise account. Now, we know that you use UASIS, and that's your primary data. So that's where you're primarily managing your data. But you can export student data from UASIS into TOPS Pro Enterprise with a CSV file. We're not going to talk about that today, but just important to know it can happen, and it does happen. With paper testing, you will either need to scan or manually enter. Hopefully, you're not just a one finger manual entry person, but you can manually enter. And we have some help documentation, and we'll look at that toward the end if we have time. But Luke is going to demonstrate that so you see what it looks like. If you need more information about that as well, you're a paper tester, you want to learn more about scanning, or you want to learn more about how you can manually enter those CASAS test data into a TOPS Pro Enterprise account, you can email our tech support. You could also email me, and I've got that at the end. And then, of course, out come our reports. Either way, the same reports are accessible and available. Doesn't matter if you're an e-tester or a paper tester, the reports are the same. So I'd like to turn it over to Luke to have him show you how easy it is to access e-tests. This is the same platform that a student will see when they're taking a test, or the proctor, which Luke is going to model now, signs in to manage test sessions or start and stop sessions. So Luke, take it away.
All right, so you should now, hopefully you see two like tab windows on the over here. And so just like Christine was showing, here's the normal e-test page. They're both the exact same for the user and for the proctor. So the left side we're going to pretend is the proctor. We're using a remote just so you guys can see it and it makes sense. When you click sign in, it'll go to the sign in page. You'll type in your agency, your user, your password. You'll click log in. And now you're going to be showing your testing session. So here's all the different options you have, and you can customize your own, or you can give us a call and we can help you customize whatever you guys need. We can build for you. So I'm just going to start, ABE, ASE, intake pretest with locator. So you just click start and you say, hey, we're going to start an on-site session. I'm here. And it's going to give me this thing called a station registration code. You can register your stations as well. And so you would just click add stations and say, like 1 through 5, add to this session. Or you can use the station registration code. So since we're doing remote and makes it easy, I'm just going to copy it. And now on the right screen, I'm going to pretend I'm the student. So we've started our session. We've got our code, right? What does the student need to do? They're going to say, I want to take a test. It's going to then pop up full screen. I will go ahead and escape just to kind of show you, but register with station code or credentials, right? You guys will see the credentials part. That is if you wanted to like permanently register it, but we're just temporarily, registration code's perfectly fine. We'll paste that code in there or they'll type it in. We click register. Your station has been registered. And now it says existing student or new student. So the student will say, type in their number. Their name will pop up if they're in the system. If not, they'll go through that demographics, right? They'll type in their demographics, their name, whatever, and you can customize what information you want to collect as well. You'll say yes, and now here are the two tests. There's the reading, there's our math, and they can just click on the test and start testing. And on the proctor side, you'll say, hey, there's our student, they're there. And so when they start the test, it'll show how, what form it is, how much time's left. We're done. We started the session, the student started the test, they're going to click the test, and that's e-testing. That's all you got to do. So it's not hard, it's not complicated, it's quick, it's easy. It's the way of the future. Join now. But that's it. That's literally your e-testing. Do you want me to switch back over to you, or want me to just go into TOPS Pro?
Go for it.
Okay.
Pro.
So we'll go ahead and then say they're done testing. We'll just go manage and we're stop. And they can log out and they can exit and they're done. So I'll close these ones and let me throw TE over there, or actually maybe I should reshare. I think it looks better that way. So everyone, this is a little cleaner, right? I think. So if you're doing paper testing, you need to get those tests into TOPS Pro to run the reports. So like Kristen was saying, one of the options is if you go to tools, there's something called a scanning wizard. So if you have a scanner or if you've got a lot of paper tests, or maybe you have like an offsite that they don't have internet, they don't have computers or any devices, You can go to the scanning wizard, you have a scanner, and you just scan them, right? It's just a wizard. You put them in, it goes through, you just follow it. If you have any problems, give us a call. We can, help you out, guide you through it. But say you're like, hey, we only have a few people, we don't need a scanner, we don't need to do that. It's just a few tests we do every once in a while. You can go to records and tests. And so this is going to be your test lister. It shows you all of your tests, which is great. But you need to now manually kind of input a test. So if you click new test pops up. And what you're going to do is, what program year did they test? 24, 25. What's the student? We can select, yep, that student tested. You don't have to select a class, so that because it's going to be attached to the student. But you do need a date. So we'll say, yep, they tested today. You do need the site, where did they test? You don't have to change anything with the assessment type. Now, the form, when you select the form, you can just type it in and it just pops up. You're going to have an option. This is where some people get a little confusing. So you'll see score override. We recommend not doing that because what happens is then you just type in the raw score, but the reports are not going to work. In order for the report to know, hey, they have to know, did you get question one right or did you get question wrong? Wrong. And so the trick is you just go down here for the item responses. Now you're going to say, look, I don't want to do A, B, C, D. That's a lot. If you've got a number pad, right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, you can now quickly kind of type in, the answers into the system just using the numpad. That's what I used to do. And you can just click save and we're done. They got 9 right. And so we're good. So that's literally, I don't know why I closed out of it, but yeah, that's it. That's typing it in. So you go new, you fill it out, you press save, and you're done. But that's the test. Now, you're gonna say, Luke, that's great. The tests are in the system, but what about reports? Can we get reports from TopsRow? And the answer is yes. Yes, we can actually. So if you go to reports, you have lots of options. You can go to test results, and you'll see there's the skills profile, the competence performance, the content standards, the learning gains, test responses, test history if you need to see everything. So we're going to do something called the skills profile, the individual skills profile. Okay. So when you pull that up, this is the general settings. This is what it's going to look like when you first pull it up. You have at first is the general settings. And so this is where you can kind of select specific things as you scroll down. If you scroll down towards the bottom, this is where you're going to be making most of your changes. Every report's a little different, but say you want show grade level equivalent, right? That might be something you would like. You can't break this. You can't mess it up. Just look around, see if, hey, that's interesting, or I don't know. Just click it and generate it. If you want a specific class, on the left-hand side under the navigator, you see class instances. So you can just click, hey, I just want this one class. And you can always click the little filter and, type in a specific class ID or a specific class name if you want to have multiple classes as well. Say you're like, Luke, I don't want a class. I want just one student. You can click student demographics and it lets you pick one specific student. And you say, Luke, that's not detailed enough. I need one specific test. You can go down to test on the left over here and you'll see all the tests. And then you can say, hey, I just want that one test. And so you can literally, just select that one test. You can then click generate. So generate's going to generate it. One thing you can do when you are messing with the general settings is after you generate it, it will load the report, right? There's our grade level equivalency. There's all of our information. Christine's going to go over this. We're going to show you an easier way through the portal, but you can get the same report. If you want to change it, go back to individual skills and then just keep regenerating it. But that's it. That's the TE side. It's a few more clicks. You can get a little more detailed. But if you're a teacher and you just want it nice and clean and easy, what we're kind of recommending is setting up a teacher portal. Now, you do have to set that up. And I'm not going to show you the steps, but I'm just going to quickly kind of show you what's involved. In order for you to have that set up is your data manager or your admin, they do need to set up your account and they do need to link it. So that does involve a few things. I'm not going to go over. So essentially organization users, you've got to have a user account with the proper access, right? You've got to have an access. You then have to have organization, personnel, registration. This is where your teacher account and personnel. So user will be linked to the personnel record, and then they're going to have to set up a class, right? Classes, definitions, instances, and then that personnel record is then linked to that specific class. Once you set up those three things, then you can kind of go over and they'll say, so your data manager or your administrator setting up and saying, hey, teacher, you know, here are the credentials to create your account. Or they'll say, hey, I created your account for you. You will use these credentials to log in. So they will have to set this up on the back end and they will have to give you information, right? You just can't go to the TE portal and kind of do it without having that connection, without them setting up on the back end. All right. Um, and we do have some help documents, so do not worry. Let me reshare, or maybe I'll just change my share. And there might have been a chat. There we go. So I think you guys are now just seeing the main. Let me just maximize. So if you go to the CASAS homepage, there's this part called the teacher portal. Um, that will pull up right over here. And then you can see, you know, activating the teacher portal. We have documents for you guys. The top part right here is for the data managers how to set it up with videos, and then the second part is teachers like how to set it up. It shows you how to pull the reports, show you how to change your settings. They're all pretty quick, short little videos, but there is stuff if you forget or just want a little more in depth. And Christine's now going to. So I'm now giving you your credentials. Here's your account. Log in, and take it away.
Thanks. So I want to put a pause on me being role playing the teacher in the teacher portal and just take a minute to share my screen and pause. I want to be conscious that
Yep.
I posted in the chat, you know, what's one thing that you want to walk away with now that you've kind of seen some of the things that we've shared? What's a question that you have? Or what was one thing you came to this meeting for to learn or to know more about so we can make sure that we address that? I skipped over that slide at the beginning, so I want to make sure that we get to that. So if you would please post in the chat, what's one thing you want to know before we leave today, or what's something that you wonder about what you just saw? And certainly, Danielle and Alex, you can ask questions as well, right? Because we're all learning together.
I do have a quick question.
Sure,
Um,
Alex.
the scanning wizard, does that require uh, to use CASAS Scantrons, or I'm assuming yes on that one, and not just any Scantron?
So, so actually, technically, yes. And like we have a list to show like so pretty much any OMR scanner we're gonna is what we recommend. Like there's a list of like you know the 2000s or if you have like a Scantron 4ES, like those are we've tested some where we're like we know these work. But I've had agencies call up and say like, hey, we found like an old scanner. It's not on your list, but it's an OMR, and we're like, hey, let's try. And so it's like we hook it up, and then we literally just kind of play with it and say, hey, let's try the 2000, let's try the 4, let's try an 8, let's try you know the auto detect, and then I'm not gonna say every single time, but we're pretty good at just like, hey, making it work. So I don't want to say like every single scanner will work because we haven't tested them all. But when they call in, I'm gonna say me, Oscar, like we're pretty good at no matter what you guys have. It seems like we can kind of get it up, or like your IT can image it or trick it kind of to where it at least gets picked up to work. So we've been fairly successful. I think there's only been like one or two where they're just like we don't know what that no like we tried everything but for the most part we can kind of get them up and running, yeah.
Awesome. Okay.
That's a great question too. We do get that question a lot. Luke is being very humble right now. He is a former TE data manager, and he and Oscar are in our tech support team. If you do want to know about your scanner, you could specifically ask any of our tech support folks, right? But those two are our experts on that, and I think that we can give Luke a gold star for I don't know how many CASAS tests he's had to scan and import and all that good stuff. So thank you, Luke. I did see in the chat, first of all, thank you, Luke, because that was very succinct. Again, these are highlights. If you want to learn more, we're going to keep sharing with you places to go where you can get more information. Um, Zoe's asking if they have access to TE and how your program should access it. Do you download it? Is it on the web? Great, Zoe. That's a great question. I don't know the answer to that if you specifically, your agency does, but you can email me at kmains, and I'll put that, Luke, can you type my email in the chat while I'm talking?
Yep.
Since I can't do two things at once anymore. I used to do five, now I can only do one. You can email me, Zoe, give me the name of your agency, and we can look and see if someone before you or your program has been set up in TOPS Pro Enterprise. And if not, I can help you get started. And then Chris, I had no specific questions. I am looking at overall functionality of e-testing because we are moving that way slowly. I don't want to move too quickly, absolutely, with e-testing, knowing how behind the Utah Department of Corrections is. That's a really good question. So Chris, first of all, this answers both yours and Zoe's. These are cloud-based applications, right? So eTests and TOPS Pro Enterprise are cloud-based. They're automatically updated every time you click on the link to go to the application. So there's no update that you have to do. And you can, as Luke has shown you, posted it in the chat, how you can download eTests and install the TE client. Now you have to have credentials, as Luke said, to log into eTests and log into TOPS Pro Enterprise. So if you're not sure, just email me and let's put that. And let's see, I was looking here at the chat if I've missed anything. So email me about the corrections, Chris, because we do have a couple of correctional facility experts and what they have done, and we can connect you to them as well to learn how they have transitioned. We work very closely with the CCDCR in California, and Oscar Medina is always really open to talking about how they have been able to use CASAS e-tests. So Zoe, I just spoke with Amber about getting your program set up. We'll follow up with Christine to get you that access. Great, Alex. Thank you so much. So just shoot me an email. We'll be good to go. All right. I'm going to move on if there are no more questions, because I do want to give you a chance to see the teacher portal. So just want to summarize real quickly. So Luke mentioned we can pull those reports through TOPS Pro Enterprise, which is our data accountability system, or you can access it through Teacher Portal. Think of it this way. TOPS Pro Enterprise is like the big bank, right? Full service, you go in, you can do anything you want to do, literally. And there's stuff that's offered services-wise that we don't even know is always available, right? You go into the bank to ask a question, they go, oh, we have this brand new thing, blah, 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 right? That's the beautiful thing about TOPS Pro Enterprise, as Luke showed you the flexibility. It's pretty amazing. I'm learning every day, and I've been using TOPS Pro Enterprise since it was TOPS, which was a long time ago, where you had to upload software. Eek. TOPS Pro Enterprise Teacher Portal, it's branded TOPS Pro Enterprise because remember, all of the data that's in the big bank is at your ATM. So you can get your balance inquiry, right, at the ATM, and you can see limited functions, but still see quite a bit about your account at an ATM, right? So the essential functions that you need from an instructor or a teacher standpoint, or a career navigators, there's a agency right now in California, all of their career navigators, they had worked with a partner with a couple of private industry folks to place their students in apprenticeships. Those apprenticeship coaches actually have access to Teacher Portal as well, because they want to see when Luke walks in the door, they want to see what his most recent progress test is to know where they can provide support to them in their apprenticeship as far as their skill development is concerned. So 2 ways to pull the report, ATM. Just want to show you that what Luke showed you is here in TOPS Pro Enterprise. We've got a screenshot here in the presentation to help you remember what the pathway is. So once you get set up, Zoe, this will be very useful and helpful. And we'll show you a little bit more about where some of those reports are. And this is what it looks like in the teacher portal. Before I go to the teacher portal, I just want you to know that essentially you will be able to see your class reports or your students' individual reports. And it's a very easy one-stop kind of shop. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to share my screen. Going to go to Google Chrome and here you can see it's March Madness. I'm in Indiana, so you know there's lots of basketball going on here. You access the teacher portal through a login that is web-based again. You'll see that I am logged in because it's automatically logging me in. I didn't exit last time. You could do either way. That's your choice. You'll be able to see your, for your bad eyes that I have, for example, make it a little bit larger. You can make it smaller or you can make it larger so that the text can increase. And here I can see my classes. So Luke is my data manager, Practical Polly here. And Luke has set up classes for me and given me my student enrollments. And I go to my ESL class in my class lister, and at a glance, I can see my class dashboard. And for my reading tests, students' average time that they've been in class, and they don't have any math goals, obviously, because this is an ESL class. They're taking reading and listening assessments. I can see the gain, average gain. I'm a really good teacher, and my students have made a significant gain since the first time and the third test that they've taken as a progress test. And there's been about 26 hours in between because they're also working on independent Burlington English lessons as well. Now, when I look at the class dashboard, there are a couple ways that I can pull reports. If you go to classes and I go to my class reports, I can see at a glance that screenshot that's in the presentation. Checking my time here, 9:40. I can see at a glance enrollment, demographic details on my students. Let's say I'm a teacher proctor. In the teacher portal, I can also see what my next assigned tests are for all of my students. I've only got 3 example students in my account. When I was teaching ELL, it was open entry, open exit, and I had 48 students. But to make this view limited, you can see the next assigned test that the student will take is in this far right-hand column. So at my fingertips, I don't have to go anywhere else. I can see that the next time I test my students for their progress test after 40 to 70 hours of instruction, right, which is CASAS recommends 70 to 100 hours for a 3 to 5 point gain. I'm going to be able to just simply click on the next assigned test, and here we go. I know exactly what eTest is going to administer. I don't have to assign this because eTest is smart software, right? The AI will automatically assign this next test. But in my mind, I know, okay, this is what they're going to do next. So when the student says, what am I going to take next? I will be starting the next test for their reading test first. So this is a nice look across their test history. Thumbs up on that. I can't really see everybody right now, so I'm just gonna, let's hope so, right? If I go back to my class lister and I look at my ESL class again, I can also look at both individuals and their reports, their profile, if you will, of all of those things that are measured. So real quick check for understanding, what are the 3 things that you're going to get test results on in the CASAS assessments? And I'll give you a hint there are also class performance reports on those 3 things that are measured in tests. Can somebody answer the question? What are the 3 things? There was a green and 3 bars out to the right-hand side on a slide, just as a review. 3 things that are measured in those CASAS tests, because we got to know what's in a test to know how to instruct our students. Does anybody have a guess? What are the 3 things that are measured that we're going to see test results on? Luke, I'm going to test you.
It may be the competency area, it may be the task area, and the content
Yes.
area.
Right. And the content area is content skills, right? Those skill standards. And those skill standards for ESL students are the English language proficiency standards. So on my class performance or on my test results for individual skills profile, I'm going to see for Mark his reading and listening tests. So what do you notice about Mark's? I'm going to scroll down for just a minute. And so we can see essentially most of his test results. What do we notice about his strengths? What are Mark's strengths? Competencies or ELPs? I feel like Bueller. What do we recognize as Mark's strengths from his individual skills profile? Does anything jump out at you as, wow, he's doing great? Does anybody want to answer? I've got some pretty good teacher wait time. Thank you, Zoe. Basic communication. He's doing great with his listening when it comes to basic communication. That's a CASAS competency, definitely a useful category to look at for our ELL students. What else are his strengths? Let's look at just his standards, the ELP standards, those content areas for reading and listening. What are his strengths here? Main ideas, very nice. Listening, retelling details, fantastic. That makes sense, doesn't it? Because if his basic communication skills are strong, we can definitely see the relationship between listening and getting the big idea of what someone is saying and also key details. Now, where does he need to work when it comes to reading? Where are his areas of growth? Not deficits, right? We've shifted our mindset to a growth mindset. So where are Mark's areas of growth that you might start instruction if we're at the beginning of the instructional cycle? Just reading. Let's narrow the lens here. Let's just look at reading. What would we focus on? And let's say we're at the beginning of the instructional cycle. And where would his areas of growth be? Point of view, for sure, he's working at 12%. And there were 8 questions. So we can guess that this is an area where he's going to need point of view and supporting evidence is going to be direct instruction, right? We're not going to set him on to an independent lesson yet. We've got to do some direct instruction with Mark around point of view and supporting evidence. But if he's at the very beginning of this cycle and he's a little anxious, I would suggest that you start with the details because we know this is scope and sequence, right? Details, main idea, inference is a more difficult, right? Depth of knowledge skill. We might want to start with some reteaching at details for reading comprehension. And he's doing well on his listening. So at 84%, we can leverage his strength in listening and bridge that to his reading comprehension and focus on details, lessons on details, not a bunch of different content areas, but just focus on those reading content, reading comprehension skills in details. Does that make sense? Now I want to go down to Wilhelm, because Wilhelm has a little different profile. His profile is showing that he's strong in some areas, but he's an ELL student. And what do we notice about his vocabulary? Is it a strength or an area of growth? It could be grown, Chris, absolutely. And we know as ELL teachers, right, that vocabulary, and even ABE, I taught ABE GED prep for reading as well. Vocabulary is critical and it's a linchpin, right? We call that a power standard because vocabulary, if a vocabulary increases, so does one's ability to identify details because they can construct meaning in multiple contexts, right? And main idea. And all of these things follow understanding the vocabulary, academic vocabulary, and multiple meaning words, right? So those MMRs, or multiple meaning words, those are really critical foundation skill. And that's where I'm going to focus my instruction essentially to bring this skill up. All right, so let's look at another example. So that report was called the Individual Skills Profile. So individual skills profile is, and if you want to put that pathway in there, I'll show you again, in the teacher portal, classes, spring class, and test results after my class reports, test results, individual skills profile. That's the pathway, 3 clicks. And I have every single student's report. Now, these can be downloaded, so that's always nice. If you see up here, we've got these nice icons up here. I can view it as a PDF. I can download this data, and I can also print it. I never had a printer in my learning lab, so I had to download and everything was on screen. Fun times, because I was in the basement of a Boys and Girls Club. We had limited resources, so I got my own printer. However, you can download everything in a PDF or download the files, keep them in a student's folder, and then give the student access to that information for your data chats with them. Just a little suggestion. Now, if I go to classes, my ESL morning class again, and I go to my class performance by content area, I'm going to get a drilled down report that shows me the discrete content areas for the ELPs. So remember, we're looking only at the ELP skill standards now. So the performance by content area is skill standards. This is specifically the steps reading. And let me increase the size of this a little bit. Steps reading, farm level C. I have 2 tests for my class, and I've got 2 students. Now, in reality, I may have 7 students who took farm level C if my class is organized in a heterogeneous mix. So my classes were open entry, open exit. So I had beginning folks, intermediate folks, advanced, and those who are almost ready to exit, all in the same learning lab at once. So what do we notice about this class? And we'll pretend for just a moment this is 7 students instead of just 2, but what do we notice the class's strengths are? That's a rhetorical question. I can see at a glance this nice graph Main idea is their strength. Details are doing well. Where do I need to focus instruction? Vocabulary. So vocabulary is where I'm going to focus instruction for the class. And where I'm focusing vocabulary specifically, measured on level C, again, we have to think about what functional level. That's the NRS levels, level C, 3, 4. In NRS levels 3 and 4, at level C, I would be focusing on high frequency words and academic vocabulary. And let's say one of my students is focused on wanting to learn about health sciences because they want to become a CNA. And one of my students in that class is, two of my students are going to be CDL folks. And so I'm going to be working with them on some high frequency words all together, but each of them may have their own academic vocabulary list that they're working on as well. So this is another nice report. As you can see, each of these gives me a report on the 2 leveled tests for class. This class had tests 2 students at level E and 2 students at level C. Why might I want to look at this class that is a mix of students? Why might I want to look just at the whole class performance on skill standards? Compare and contrast for just a minute. This is my level C students, and these are my level E students. Why might I want to know across levels where their strengths and their areas of growth are? For the sake of time, I know you all know the answer to this. I can see actually that my level C students are doing well in key details. I might consider regrouping some students who are in this level C, working on some of the same lessons with key details for my level E students. On the flip side of that, I can see that the strength for main idea here, and there's a strength for main idea here. So I'm not going to spend a lot of direct instruction time on main idea, am I? Because we can do some spiral review on main idea. They're doing well. So we can see point of view is going to require direct instruction. It's not even covered for my level C folks, because point of view is one of those higher level comprehension skills, right? So while I might be teaching these folks on point of view, I might be having my level C students working on some vocabulary. I can flexibly group in small groups, both individualized instruction as well as small group. All right, ESL students, I'm going to look now at my task areas. One more report that is really, I think, very useful. So we said that where students could grow would be point of view, right? So I'm going to look at what my students' strengths are when it comes to their tasks and their ability to perform on tasks. And I might use charts and graphs to teach them how to understand a different skill standard. I might build on their ability to read texts and emails and articles, and looking at my class reports, look at my content area and say, my students need to work on inference in both classes. So the lesson I teach will build on the type of task that is their strength, which might be charts, tables, and graphs. And I would use that task area of charts, tables, and graphs to focus instruction on the skills that they need, which would be vocabulary or inference for both levels. So I teach inference through charts and graphs. What do we know this graph is about when it comes to population, about the population growth? It's a real practical lesson example. So they know charts and graphs, gives them confidence, but I'm layering on a new skill that I'm directly teaching with inference. So those are just some examples of how you can use Teacher Portal to quickly access individual skills profiles, as well as the competencies, content area, and task areas. Now, back to our presentation, which is going to be here. Let's go here, get rid of that. This is a screenshot, and I want to just show you in a summary. These are easy and immediately available. These are all the types of reports that are available. But wait, there's more. There are also learning gains reports in TOPS Pro Enterprise and Program and Federal. Lots of customization to help you understand what they know, what your students know, and what they need to know. There are individual and there are class reports. Just in summary, I'm going to skip past these, but these are for your reference future forward so that you can look more and you're trying to remember what was the report that had all of these things on it. You can look at these for reference and then also just look at the details a little bit more. One thing I want to point out is that there is a GED subsection or HiSET subsection that you can turn off or on. There are content area reports that we looked at for both individuals and class. Same for task. This is a content summary report. And again, all of these are here for your reference, future forward. So let's get to a summary. You can set up the Teacher Portal account if you have TOPS Pro Enterprise and you purchase TOPS Pro Enterprise units. And Alex, I saw your note and email actually came through that we can help you get the Teacher Portal set up and activate those Teacher Portal accounts. There are step-by-step instructions. And if you later have questions and you wonder something, please post it in the chat and we can answer a question. Anybody have any questions? We've covered a lot. If you could just take a minute to reflect what you used to think and now what you think and post that in the chat, we'll wrap up for today. And I know we posted our emails. I'll post mine again. And Luke, if you want to post your name and your email in the chat, we'll save the chat. It's tech support at CASAS. Oh, there you go. Perfect. Tech support at CASAS.org. I read your mind there. You used to think you had to make your own spreadsheet to see all of this, and now you think you can use your time far more effectively. Absolutely, Zoe. Very efficient. Time management. We don't have enough of it the way it is. Does anybody else have a last dominant thought, what they used to think or now they think? Please feel free to post it in the chat. I'll hang out for just another minute or two. In this presentation, Alex used to think that TE was hard, but now you know that Luke is amazing and helped you.
Yes.
That's 100% true. There's also a slide in here for accessing the Teacher Portal with a nice QR code. There's TE help documentation on our website. Just to sum up, all the e-test help documentation that you need, and our tech support is available 11 hours a day, Monday through Friday. We are not available on the weekends. And here's our contact information and the help desks. As you move forward with questions, please feel free to email me as well.
There's also an office hours tomorrow.
Yes, and there is office hours, and if I can just take a minute, I will show you here on the website. If you go to our homepage, You can see if you go to training and support, if you want to switch over to e-tests or learn more, you can click this link. If you want to learn more about our assessments, they're here. If you want to learn more about Teacher Portal, those quick links are right here on the homepage. I would recommend that you bookmark the link that Luke just put in the chat, because this training and support page is your one-stop shop for connecting with us for office hours. We have our news and updates coming up on April 16th. You'll definitely want to attend that. And here are the quick links for the e-test help documents and TOPS Pro Enterprise help documents. So if you bookmark training and support, you've got pretty much everything you need to manage your program with the details and the help documents. And when you look at this, this is super cool. Luke showed you how to add users, or said you'll need to be added as a user. There's a great GIF right here about how to add users and the step-by-step instructions. And each one of those help documents has this type of format, a GIF with the instructions right there. So you don't have to download some document and look and what page is it on. It's all right here for you. Thank you so much for your time today. We're so grateful that you're here. We appreciate the opportunity to share with you some of the features of the CASAS programs and the reports specifically for teachers. Thank you for all that you do. And we are grateful to have this time. So if anybody has any more questions, I know many of you have to go on to something else, I'm sure. You can reach us anytime.